Okay, welcome to my studio. It's actually not sort of very studio-like. It's basically just a sort of downstairs bedroom, but all the gear is piled in. So there's no acoustics. It sounds pretty terrible, but I think you can mix in any room as long as you're just used to the sound. And I've only just moved in, so I'm not used to the sound. So everything sounds terrible, but uniformly terrible. Okay, so we'll start with the Spongle poster, which is great because you can actually see the detail and it's really big, and you can see all these circuit boards and stuff, which I love, which is something you couldn't really see on the CD cover because it's too small. While we're on the art, we have Rajaram's depictions of Spongle Land. That's very blobbery. There's another one there. And sort of various drawings and spongly bits around. Okay, so some of the equipment while we're over here. The MS-20 synth, not plugged in at the moment, but it is a great synth. I use it on Deranger by Hallucinogen. It does all that blah, 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 kind of typical sound. Very Hallucinogen sound, that one. The Oscar, an old favourite, one of the first analog synths I ever got, and does great bubbles, and basically nearly everyone you find, they're really hard to find. When you do find them, most of them you turn it on, it just goes or some sort of similar sound, because they're nearly all broken. This is a SH5, much beloved of Eat Static, and has a great squidgy filter for those lovely squidgy, scratchy sounds. Again, not plugged in at the moment, so I can't play you any of these sounds, but I'll play you something else in a minute. One thing I can play you, of course, is my Yamaha circuit bent keyboard, which is just like one of those sort of horrible, cheap kind of one of those sort of synths, you get the idea. But it's been circuit bent by this guy called Paul, who basically takes them apart and sticks a load of these sockets on it. I don't know if you can see these phono sockets here. So you then take cables and plug them in. It's got a little microphone as well. So you take your microphone and do a little sample. Is that there? Hello? Is that there? I'll do that a bit louder. Hello, 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 hello. Is that hello, hello, hello? Is that? And then you plug in these things sort of fairly randomly and hello, 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 hello. Is that? Hello, hello, hello. Is that? Is that? Hello, hello, hello. Is that? Is that? Hello, hello, hello. Is that? Is that? And it makes basically just noise, different versions of noise. But it's pretty cool. Okay, then I suppose the computer is the main bit of equipment and the mixing desk. So coming around here, the computer, Spongle mouse mat, highly recommended, and coloured mouse. Use it as basically like a big tape recorder to record all the synths and sometimes generate sounds. So for example, you have a kick drum here, you can see the waveform. If I play it, there's a kick drum. And then you can put plugins on it and stuff. I've got this UAD card, which is one of my favourites, where you can put stuff like this old Roland Space Echo is a good one. It looks just like the real thing. Mind Melder, there we go. Of course, in the old days that would cost so much money, and it would all be made of tape loops, and you'd have to fiddle around, keep your tape clean and demagnetise the heads and all that to stop it being really hissy. And now you just get it for a plug-in through your computer. and it's relatively cheap. Amazing technology. So then once you have all your sounds on the computer, I've got a few playing, you then come to the mixing desk, and the sounds, basically you have all these channels. The first question people ask when they come into the studio is, how do you know what all these knobs do? And the answer is, it's very easy, because they all do the same thing. So you have 32 channels of exactly the same thing. So if I show you one channel, what one channel does, then you'll be able to work a mixing desk. So we'll start with this sort of bass sound that I've got here. There's not a lot of bass on it because I've taken a lot of the bass off, which I'll show you how to do. But okay, so we're dealing with this channel, channel 6, which goes all the way down here. Starting at the bottom, we have the fader here, which is obviously the level, the volume. You have panning, so you can turn it left to right. If you've got a stereo TV, then that should be going left to right. If you haven't, then it will sound exactly the same. And shame on you, you should get one. Okay, moving up to here, these are more just level controls for more things coming in, so we'll ignore them. It's just like another one of those. Then you've got, this is basically like a very sophisticated treble and bass control on your hi-fi, but a lot more complicated. So you can, if you want to add bass, you just turn this bass up. If you want to add treble, you add this. Which again, if you've got a crap TV, you probably can't hear anything. It serves you right. Then the rest of them, instead of just being treble and bass, you can choose a frequency that you want to boost. And you can use this creatively by choosing a frequency quite low, boosting it, and then you sweep that frequency. So very and that's a sound you hear on many trance tracks, many tracks generally. And these buttons up here, they're basically sending out to effects. Over here, I have a whole rack of lovely, beautiful effects like echoes, reverbs, all kinds of sort of, they're like the magic dust you put on stuff. And so on the mixing desk, these controls just sends to them. So if you combine all that, you can sweep the frequency, send it to some echo, and it already sounds very trancey. And then you send the echo back to itself. And then also, each channel also has an on and off button, so you can bring everything in. So this is basically what I do in my live sets, is you have all these channels separate, all these sounds are playing, you can see every green light here has got a sound underneath it, and I'm just going to switch them in and out, send them to the echo, feed the echo back, send them to different effects, control the levels, and you can sort of like build a tune out of silence. So I'll try and give you an example now, but it'll probably sound a bit rubbish because I'm not really set up. Okay, so if we start with that one. Send it to a bit of reverb. I've got a lovely big reverb. That's actually the sound of a cat I strangled earlier. Oops. So there you go, there you have it. Basically over here is some of the effects when I was sending it to the echoes. These quad reverbs, they're like very cheap. This is my first ever effect. Now it doesn't work, so I bought another one off eBay for 80 quid. This is all reverb stuff. These are my sound cards, just bought them, they're really expensive and I'm really pleased with them. Eventides, they do the really posh sounding reverbs, like the big one I had here. Just put a big reverb on the cat. And how it just echoes on nicely and pure. So that's the Eventide stuff. These distressors, when something gets too loud, they just bring down the level, and you can use that in a very creative way. So you can distort stuff and compress the waveform so it sounds really, really tight, and change the sort of the attack on it, as it's called, which is the initial sort of bok of the kick drum. For example, another great toy. This thing looks good, it's got lots of knobs, but again it's just an EQ, like I was explaining here before, where you control the treble and the bass and boost frequencies. And that's about it. I've been sent this to try, which I'm thinking about buying, but it's really expensive. But it has got 10 tubes in it, those glowing old tubes in it, which get really hot, like light bulbs, like the old hi-fis with light bulbs coming out the top. And there we go, guitar amp there. I've often put a lot of stuff through the amp. And various sort of weird pedals and stuff. Trent Reznor uses a lot of these. They, all I seem to get out of it is a sort of scratchy kind of ringing tone. But they're good for some things. I should have more of these plugged in so I can give you more of a demo really, but it's not that interesting. And that's about it.